Hello and welcome to the South Carolina Lede. I'm your host, Gavin Jackson, and this episode was recorded on December 19th, 2022 from my mom's house here in Colesville, Maryland. And I want to welcome you to a special end of 2022 South Carolina Lede podcast. That's again with me and our intrepid producer, A.T. Shire, who you'll hear later in this episode. Just so you know, this will be pretty much a big winding wind down. So I guess what other podcasts sound like when people just talk for 30 minutes. That's what's in store for you. That's right, folks. This entire episode is a loose recap of 2022 as we do a big wind down for the year. I'm going to say wind down one more time. That's right. You know, I'm finally on vacation. It's been months, but I'm home in Silver Spring, Maryland at my mother's house where I grew up. And I'm visiting my two brothers who still live in this area. So this is a very congested area, densely populated suburban Washington. It's all well and good, but I'm too used to living in Columbia with my 5-minute commute and easily accessible amenities, which got me thinking before we start into the wind down, I'm going to do a little digression. I'm reflecting myself. You know, while I was born and raised in Maryland for my first 18 years, I've spent the past 18 years, and some 6 months probably, living outside of the state. So first with 4 years at Kent State in Ohio, then 2+ years of internships starting at newspapers in Lima, Ohio, then Columbus, on to Baton Rouge, and then by the grace of God, I made it to the Morning News in Florence, South Carolina in 2011. Then the Post and Courier State House Bureau in the fall of 2015, then ETV in January 2017. And now I'm wherever you find podcasts. So while I consider myself a native Marylander, I'm definitely a South Carolinian. I mean, it's all the South, right? Though growing up, I never identified with the South, but sure, I did once I got there. Anyway. So here's some more news. I went through all of our scripts for the year. That's right, I saved them, and I just kind of distilled them down to some of the biggest stories of 2020 year, the political stories of 2022. And I'm just going to kind of like start off, you know, maybe I'll forget some things here and there, but some of the biggest stories I want to recap include Judge J. Michelle Childs being on the short list for the U.S. Supreme Court and later being confirmed to the D.C. Court of Appeals. You might remember that. That was a big hubbub in the beginning of the year, covering that, speculating, wondering where she was going to go. And we even got a great podcast title out of it, Child's Destiny. I mean, it was meant to be in a way. But of course, Michelle Childs being confirmed to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. But moving on, let's look at the legislature, where we saw a wave of resignations and retirements, including Speaker Jay Lucas, and the election of Sumter Republican and former Ways and Means Chairman Merle Smith to become leader of the chamber. Republicans failed to pass a more restrictive abortion ban bill following weeks of hearings and debate after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned nearly 50 years of abortion access precedent in June. The state Supreme Court is still set to rule on the state's current 6-week abortion law. And we saw laws outlawing transgender girls from playing on sports teams, the bipartisan election integrity bill becoming law, and a law to make mandatory minimum policing standards statewide. Some big bills that died this year included medical marijuana, which made it out of the Senate but died in the House, just like what happened to the hate crimes bill. In a Washington big bill we saw pass was Senator Tim Scott's anti-lynching bill, signed into law by President Joe Biden. Moving to election news, in the primaries, State Representative Russell Fry blew out a field of 7 candidates to defeat incumbent 7th District Republican Representative Tom Rice outright in the primary in June due to Rice's vote to impeach President Donald Trump over January 6. Trump endorsed Fry, and he won outright, ending Rice's 5-term reign. Trump's endorsement didn't help Katie Arrington, though, who tried to defeat 1st District Republican Nancy Mace in her primary. Mace went on to win her 2nd term over Democratic challenger Dr. Annie Andrews in November. And during that general election, Republicans made huge gains over Democrats, specifically Governor Henry McMaster, winning his 2nd full term over Joe Cunningham by 17 points. A huge margin there. So a big red wave in South Carolina, but nationwide, well, not so much. That's because Democrats gained seats in the Senate and minimized their House losses. But some more big election news, too, came at the end of the year, with South Carolina moving to the top of the 2024 Democratic presidential primary calendar. And we can't talk about 2022 without talking about business. We had a strong economic year, despite the 2 quarters of negative growth in the beginning of the year. Jobs remained strong, wages increased, and spending was also strong, despite rising interest rates to combat inflation, which reached a 40-year record high of around 9% in the summer. The electric vehicle future is coming to South Carolina with billions of dollars of investment in current vehicle facilities and future battery manufacturing sites, including a $3.5 billion Redwood Materials site in Berkeley. Boeing started deliveries of the 787 Dreamliner in August after manufacturing flaw issues, and then landed a 100-plane order with options for 100 more from United this month. Gas hit a record high of $4.60 a gallon in June, and now we are below last year's prices at $2.82 a gallon. Also, the Charleston Harbor is now 52 feet deep. A big, important ditch, like Lindsey Graham said. And of course, the state is also overflowing with money. Earmarks came back with a vengeance this year with $373 million for projects in the state thanks to Senator Lindsey Graham and Congressman Jim Clyburn in the federal budget. Combine that with roughly $2 billion in American Rescue Plan funds lawmakers approved for broadband, roads, and rural infrastructure, on top of all 46 counties splitting $1 billion in ARPA money, and 17 of the state's biggest cities receiving $190 million in ARPA funds. There's also $500 million from the Savannah River Site federal settlement for projects in that region and the state. And who could forget the $6 billion from the bipartisan infrastructure bill that the state will get over the next 5 years? But most of that is for federal highways and bridges. And of course, there is also plenty of funding in the $14 billion budget that lawmakers passed this legislative session. A lot of new funding and one-time dollars for a variety of things. And the full 12-cent gas tax increase was fully phased in on July 1st. That goes to fix neglected transportation infrastructure in the state. In some of the biggest medical news this year, we saw vaccines for kids down to 6 months for COVID-19 and the bivalent boosters for adults. But there was also some horrible news in 2022 as well. The Russian invasion of Ukraine, mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde, the end of Twitter, Hurricane Ian, monkeypox, the tridemic of COVID, flu, and RSV, leading to one of our worst flu seasons in years, and U.S. life expectancy decreasing from 78.86 years in 2019 to 76.6 years in 2021. A net loss of 2.26 years, folks. And our state's murder rate is as high as it was in 1991. And not to mention, drug overdose deaths are skyrocketing to record rates as well. So a lot of news there and some tough news there right at the end, of course, from 2022, as there always is, unfortunately. But we'll be right back with some of our perspectives on the year from myself and your favorite, A.T. Shire. Okay, AT. Well, 2022 in recap, you just heard there. I did my best to recap the entire year as best I could remember.
Yes.
As much as I couldn't repress, I was trying to bring it all back out. But it's fun to look back, for good and for bad, to just kind of jog your memory, look at what we did in the past year. It's wild to think about how much we've covered. But of course, we got 2023 ahead of us. But before we go there, I want to hear from you. Tell me about your favorite stories, your least favorite stories of 2022. The people, I mean, they're demanding it. I know they are. They have to know what to look forward to.
The people need to know. Yes, yeah. I agree. I think that I have a duty to the state of South Carolina and the world writ large to share my biggest stories. So I am going to start off with, obviously, number one, Philadelphia Eagles, 13-1.
Go Birds.
Okay. I mean, it's a hard go Birds. But that is all I will say about that.
Thank you.
I will say, Gavin, you did watch the World Cup final yesterday.
Oh man, I came across it. Yeah, I was babysitting my 3 nephews under 6 from Saturday through Sunday afternoon with my mother. And hoo boy, that was a lot. Mm-hmm. But my brother came home. Him and his wife came home. They were on a trip for her birthday weekend, and we just plopped down on the couch and just watched the end of it. And oh my God, because I tuned in right when it was like 2-0, and then France rallied. And I caught all of that, and then the knockouts. I mean, oh my God, what a way to end the World Cup.
Yes, it was. I think the World Cup being in the winter around Christmas time, around the holidays, in Qatar, under questionable circumstances, all that stuff, huge story. Mm-hmm. And that I think the game ended 2 minutes before the Eagles game started. So my heart rate was elevated for about 12 straight hours on Sunday. Moving on.
Yes.
The next best, I think, this one is about you, Gavin.
Oh my God, I'm on your best
list?
list?
This one, I think, one of my top stories, one of AT's top stories is Gavin baking bread.
Oh, yeah. My big bread realization year.
I think anyone who knows me knows that I am I am very gluten tolerant.
Yes.
As dairy intolerant as I am, I'm very gluten tolerant.
Totally.
And so anytime that we're going carb, I think that's huge. I think Gavin, seeing the light, taking the carbs,
Yes.
I think that is massive. And I also take I think it's a little bit because of my influence, you getting more food focused here. So
yeah, we can go ahead and say maybe, but I don't think that's the case.
I'm taking responsibility here.
I'll give it to you because I'm on your
modicum.
list. I'll let you do that. I just did it. The motivation for me for the bread situation was I love buying loaves of bread, but I hate paying for it, and I just want to eat the olive oil, eat the bread and the butter.
Yes.
So I said, I can do this. I'm going to do this.
I think you're speaking for the people right here.
And in fact, we did win this bread. But yeah, so that's been a great development for me. I've learned a lot about myself. You know this. I've embraced the carb. I've never really been anti-carb, but I haven't seen any negative effects from it besides just overall
You weren't
happiness.
carb forward, though. Carb forward, though.
Yes. So super excited about that. But thank you. Yes,
when I first, Towner can attest to this. When I first met Gavin, he was just like, food is fuel, and that's it.
Still
I
is.
always said if he could have like a hamster wheel and a water dispenser and pellet food, he would be okay with that.
Or a horse feed bag.
Exactly, a horse feed bag, that would work. So I think this is a huge development. I think this is massive.
Just to close it out, I will say your praise of my bread was really a big moment of 2022 for me.
You put 3 times the salt in it, and it tasted amazing. And so I said, whatever you're doing, keep doing what you're doing.
Call me a chef. You just throw a bunch of salt in it. You're golden.
That's correct. That is correct. Okay, moving on. My third big great story for me also includes you, I guess.
Oh.
Is South of Spooky coming to fruition.
Finally, look at that. Thank you, folks, for that support and our never-ending support of each other to make that work.
Exactly. And if you're here saying, AT, Gavin, this is Christmas time, don't talk about ghosts. Well, I would raise you.
Turn off the pod now.
Jacob Marley, the Ghost of Christmas Past, the Ghost of Christmas Future, and the fourth ghost that I can't remember. But I would say, check that out, okay?
Past, present, future, Marley's spirit, yeah.
Present, okay, there we go.
The one with the little scary kids at his feet. Ignorance and want.
Getting that podcast out to the people who were clamoring for it.
They didn't know that they needed it, just like the lead. No one knew they needed the lead until it showed up.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes. So I say go back, re-listen, binge listen again. It's perfect. Get everyone gathered around the tree, gathered around the menorah, or what have you. And listen as a group, okay? Take notes, break it down. Big Reddit communities, I'm sure. I haven't checked, but
Mastodon,
I'm just sure of that.
Mastodon.
Mastodon.
But yeah, I mean, we had a fun little wind down year-end party talking about that, and you confessed that you're like, I don't know if we were actually going to get that off the ground. I was like, I had no doubt we were going to get that off the ground. I don't care what was going to happen. If I have to get on this runway and sell my soul to the devil himself, yes, we were going to get it done, and we did. So that was big for us. We grew. We learned a lot about ourselves there.
We did. I mean, we're fuller, more rounded people now
because of the bread.
The bread really sustained us. I mean,
it did.
Gavin, your bread. To liken this to Lord of the Rings, I would say it's Lembas bread, and just one little bite sustained us through all of that. Okay. Anyway, my low
you get
point.
Some worst?
My low
what
point,
are your worst for 2022?
I guarantee you can guess my number one worst. It is
Twitter dying.
No, Twitter dying is my number 2 worst.
Okay.
Twitter dying. To bring this back to the Eagles, go Birds, 13-1 is I've been flirting with the idea of getting off of Twitter, but I don't think I could do a football Eagles Sunday without Twitter. So I'm going to be on there until the Eagles beat writers and all that sports information that I can hotline direct inject into my body. Like that's what I need. But that's number 2. Number 1 is tearing my Achilles at
your
adult
sports
kickball.
Injury, your own injury. Yes, of course, that was horrible.
Tearing my Achilles at adult kickball was a real low point in my life.
Yeah,
and crawling from the shower to my bed to clothe myself. That tested me.
It did.
Oh, it tested me. But here I am persevering. And if I don't, I'd like to toot our horn again. We did not miss a pod from that.
No,
okay?
and we also did an entire other series on top of that.
Yes.
Were we producing it at the last minute? Perhaps. But
No. That's part of the process. That's part of the process.
We did find our process for South of Spooky there. I feel like you didn't probably tell me as much of the depths that you've reached in that process of tearing your Achilles. I can only imagine.
I think it came out in the art that is South of Spooky. Okay, and without great pain, there is no great art.
The big injury.
Exactly.
The big injury.
Exactly. So yes, I had my the injury for 30-year-olds. Also, I'd like to say that I was at a Christmas party on Saturday, and I was talking. People were all asking me about my foot.
Show us the foot.
Achilles.
Let me touch it. Where is it?
Exactly.
Is that one?
Et cetera, et cetera. And then we were all comparing injuries, and I was like, guys, hold on a second, everyone. We're all so old and washed. Oof. This is pathetic. We're just sitting here comparing sports injuries because we're like 35, all of us, And I gotta add one more positive for the year.
Oh.
It's this podcast with all you listeners.
Oh my gosh, how could we forget?
Yeah.
All of them.
It's you guys. Huh? We love you.
Pointing, and I see you.
We're pointing you and you. Yeah. Did you see AT made eye contact with me?
He's touching me.
He's looking at me.
We did have one live taping this year in Sumter, I saw, and that's going to change in 2023, folks. I can tell you right now. We're going to have more. We're starting off in January. We already got one planned for January. We'll be telling you about. Look forward to that. It's late January.
Gavin and I are visualizing these every single day. We wake up, we open all our chakras and align them. And
2023 will be all like we used to be.
Anyway, Gavin, you have what's in and what's out for 2023.
I want our listeners to know, to be prepared for 2023 and to know how they should prepare themselves for the new year in terms of what should I be wearing? How should I be dressing? What's cool? What's not cool? Because the last thing you want to do is show up somewhere and be like, oh, look how uncool that guy is, right? That's what they always say. Look, there he is, uncool. Number one, starting right off on what's out, Twitter. Twitter's out. I'm sorry.
You're right.
Do you think I wanted to leave? Did you think I wanted to leave 11 plus years on Twitter and download 4 gigabytes of my data the other weekend?
There's nowhere that we talk more than on Twitter. I mean, now there isn't, but now, I mean, there's so many things I'm like, oh, I got to send this to I'm
not going to get into the politics of it all because I don't care for it, but I'm just going to say the site no longer meets my standards.
That's
it's
fine.
Restricting certain things, blocking certain
me
people.
To hear you say this.
I've moved to Mastodon, so that's what's in. Any other social media site besides Twitter is what's in for 2023. Mm-hmm. If we were on Twitter right now, I couldn't tell you about that because there are rules prohibiting folks from talking about other social media sites on Twitter. So
they've since rescinded that. I will say that was only in effect for 12 hours.
Okay, so just some volatile leadership there. That's the way to manage.
Yeah. It's good. Don't worry, it's good now.
But even if they get a new CEO based on a poll, I still things have been said and done that we don't go back.
Gavin, all I have to say to you is Vox Popular, okay? Anyway, Gavin, you have another contemptuous head
tyrant
for number 2, yes?
Vladimir Putin. He's going to be out in 2023. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, don't know what, but something will happen.
I heard he fell down the stairs.
C'est la vie.
So,
and in,
who's that?
Who's going to be in? Literally anyone else. Anyone else. Out, I have to say this, the Carolina squat. They almost outlawed it this year in a bill, S908. So what we'll do to make things more interesting for 2023, what's going to be in for automotive, eye-catching, standout ways to proclaim who you are to people.
Peacocking it.
Peacocking it. More social media handle decals.
Yes. I can't tell you how much I love seeing an annoying car, and then you're like,
what's their Instagram?
You have an Instagram handle with 7 underscores and 6 backslashes and 4 forward slashes? Let me look that up real quick.
Well, let me look that up when I'm no longer driving, folks.
Yes.
Another thing that will be out, recession fears.
Okay.
I know everyone called for a recession next year, but I'm telling you, what's going to be in? A soft landing.
Oh.
It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay, folks.
Jerome did it.
Papa Powell.
Papa Powell. We've been saying Papa Powell's going to soft land.
When it comes to our Mother Earth, we've all experienced a lot of earthquakes.
That's Gaia. Yes.
What's out will be Midland's earthquakes. What will be in? A multitude of climate change effects.
Could earthquakes be a symptom of climate change? Who knows?
Possibly. So we have that to look forward to, folks. Almost done here. Out ghost stories. Yeah, that's surprising to hear me say that, right? Because we have a podcast. But you know what's in? Ghost news and stories on a new South of Spooky Season 2.
Oh, yes.
Which I'm forcing us to do now.
Yes, Gavin has serious compromat on me. So I much like Scientology, he convinced me to tell him my deepest, darkest secrets and fears, and he has a file of that and lords it over me. And we are going to
do a second season.
We're going to do a second season.
If I have to rupture your other Achilles, I will.
It has been threatened, and it is on the table. I've heard it.
Yeah. One of the biggest things, going back to what you were talking about, being proud of me. I was proud of you when we were in Chattanooga on South of Spooky, and you were the quietest I've ever seen you and the stillest, only because we had to be. I didn't think it'd be possible, but I saw it. It was beautiful.
This was pre-injury too, so
yes.
I was fully mobile and I could talk, but I chose not to, and it pained me. I'm still not over it. I think it may have contributed to the Achilles tear.
Mm-hmm. And another thing that will be out in 2023 is Crocs. I hate to tell you that.
I'm wearing Crocs currently, and I can't tell you that I've ever been more comfortable in my life.
Well, that's good, because what's going to be in for 2023 is more Crocs. I hate to say this, but there will be more Crocs. Ever since I saw the 7-Eleven.
Fake out. I love that.
The 7-Eleven Crocs.
Yes.
You heard me almost say, you heard me say, I would like those.
You said it. You would wear those. I know.
I'm finally coming full circle now. I have this process where I deny, and then I come around.
I've seen this man have a Slurpee at 9 a.m. So this man is a 7-Eleven devotee.
The last one. Out. The injury. In. Health.
The
health
recovery, baby.
The recovery. AT 2.0, folks. Or 3.0.
Yeah, you're not... I'm going to have a bionic leg. It's going to weigh 5,000 pounds, and I'm going to be able to leap over short buildings.
Yeah, Boston Dynamics.
Exactly. That's a low for me. The Boston Dynamic machines doing dances, I hated that.
ChatGPT.
They're going to dance on our graves is what they're going to do.
Yes.
Anyway, if you have any ins, if you have any outs, please hit us with them. Call in.
Yeah, 803-563-7169. We want to hear your favorite stories, your least favorite stories of 2022, what you think is going to happen in 2023. We need to know.
Prognostications. Hit the line with prognostications. Also, if you got any resolutions, hit some resolutions in there, please. We would love that. And
I'm no longer on Twitter, like we said. I'm on Mastodon at Gavin Jackson at mastodon.social is my new.
That's correct.
My new
That's
home
correct.
for right now. I'm looking into posts too. I'm gonna look into that. I'm on a wait list. Not crazy about that, but I'm enjoying Mastodon right now. If you're looking for a new home besides Twitter, we're there. LeadPod's still on Twitter, still figuring out things. So you can always DM us at SCLeadPod. We're gonna send out some stickers. But we say goodbye. End of the year. Thank you for listening, folks.
We love you. We can't tell you how much we love you. We couldn't do this. We wouldn't be allowed to do this if it weren't for everyone listening here.
And folks, we'll be back on January 3rd, 2023, bringing you a recap of what's been going on since we left you this week. And then we'll start right off into the new year with the legislative session, inauguration, State of the State, and so much more. So we look forward to seeing you guys in the new year. Thanks again for tuning in, and you can always stay up to date with the latest news on scetv.org and southcarolinapublicradio.org. And don't forget to support your local newspapers as well. We want to hear from you guys, 803-563-7169. And you can also leave us a little present under the tree at Apple Podcasts in the form of a review. We love those. For the South Carolina Lede, I'm Gavin Jackson. Be well, South Carolina. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.
Don't forget to support your local newspapers. If you're cold, they're cold.